And gentlemen, this is Monarch and Moreau, and this channel is dedicated to funeral professionals who, although they don't have the lowest price, they wouldn't mind making the most money. That's what our training is about, increasing your power at the bargaining table, where the rubber meets the road at the point of sale. Type of training videos, consider following us. We're going to be dropping one of these videos at least once per week. Let's talk about how we build trust and rapport. Now, the most critical component to building trust and rapport over the phone is tonality. In fact, tonality is so important that you can be horrible at every other thing and still be considered credible if your tonality is good. Now, why is that? Let me give you an analogy. Let's say you go into a gym and you want to improve your strength, and you want to get under the squat rack and squat a heavy weight, or you want to do some bench pressing. Now, who are you going to go to and ask in the gym to spot you in a heavy back squat bench press? You're going to look around, you're going to observe some things, you're going to make some determinations. But if you had to make a gut check decision, if you had to make a decision right now, like an at-need family has to make, how are you going to make your decision? So you go into the gym, finding a spotter is probably a little bit more difficult than you think it is, because if you're going to do a heavy weight, you need somebody behind you that you can rely on, that knows what they're doing. So how do you know that? If you don't know anybody in the gym, how do you know that? And people tend to ask me for spots quite a bit. And these people have never seen me lift a weight in my life. They'll ask me for diet advice. They don't know what my diet is. I might have a bag of Doritos in my hand, right? And there should be some disconnect there, but there's not. There's something overriding that, right? And in the gym, you can see it. On the phone, you can hear it. In both cases, it's tonality. Tonality is authoritative because it's very primal, and people know that behind this tonality must be years of hard work and experience, because tonality is difficult to duplicate and it's difficult to fake. That's why it's so powerful. So I hope you can see why I made the gym analogy. It's pretty clear in that context, but it's less obvious in the business context when it comes to our communication skills and our ability to communicate value, communicate trust, communicate credibility to someone else. If we have the right tonality, it becomes much easier. But here's the thing, tonality takes so long. What can we do to improve today? What can we do to increase our odds of getting the very next price shopper that calls us? I have some workarounds for you. I have some cues that are going to ensure that you have the right tonality from day one. Face it, people are judging you, and they are judging you first based on your tonality. When Evelyn calls in and says, "What is your price?" the minute you start answering her, she starts judging you. But tonality doesn't happen overnight, and you need to close the next price shopper that calls you. So I'm going to give you a workaround. I'm going to give you some cues that's going to allow you to talk in the proper tone at all times from day one. So let's be clear about our goals. Number one, our goal when the call comes in is to take the loved one into our care, convert the call to a customer. Now, the easiest path is the path of least resistance, and the shortest path is a straight line. So when we talk about the straight line is merely just being clear on our objective. Our objective is to take the call and then take the loved one into our care. A to B, that's the straight line. The path of least resistance is not creating oppositional language patterns that oppose the motivational directions that we are hearing from the caller. So when the call comes in, we need to control the call and qualify. So the call comes in, and the sweetest voice you ever heard says to you,
I'm just calling to ask, what's your price for a basic cremation?
If they ask about price, we do not give a price quote, but instead we give pricing information. We give a range. The first thing you do is listen, okay? You need to have this intention. When you pick up the phone, my intention is to listen to the caller so deeply, so hard, that they can hear me listening to them, right? And we all know when someone's not listening to us, right? We could be talking to someone. You can hear when people are not listening to you. So the opposite must be true. Okay, so that's the first cue. I'm going to listen so hard. That's my intention. And now you're listening so that you can repeat everything that they say. You are hanging on every word. These are the cues. Like if you're in the squat, I say, look up or look straight. Force the knees out. This is the cue. Listen hard. Listen to every word. You're hanging on every word. Are they moving toward a goal or away from a problem? If you execute that, whatever you go to say next will be in a congruent tonality. That's it. That's the basics right there. If you learn that, you are going to get control of the call. You're not going to give an unqualified price quote. They're going to have heard you listening to them, And you're going to have tremendous rapport and trust going into the qualification stage. And that's what you want. You don't want any price decision. You want to just give them price information to kind of satisfy them temporarily with the reasonable request of, for us to really specify this down for you, we need to ask you a couple questions. Everybody's prepared for that. People know that, and they're used to that because that's what professionals do. And now that's what you get to do. I talk about this in the lesson. You could have all kinds of doubt and uncertainty in your mind, right? You could be focusing on the outcome. Maybe I'm not going to get the sale. Maybe the customer doesn't like me. Maybe I'm not doing this right. Am I going to remember what to say? All of that doubt and uncertainty, if you focus on it, will be conveyed to Evelyn. So we want to focus on the process. We can have faith in the process. We can sincerely and authentically execute the process. We can listen. So I want you to slow down. First cue, slow down. If you feel rushed, it's because you feel rushed. It's not the prospect. Make sure the caller can hear you listening to them. Now, like I discussed in the lesson, we all know when people are not listening to us. We can hear that. And we can hear when people are listening to us. Slow down, listen, focus on the process, and be able to repeat word for word everything your prospects are telling you. And the final cue is I want you to listen for, is this a toward or an away profile? Now, if we're doing active listening and Evelyn says, I'm worried that we can't afford burial, here's what I want you to ask yourself. Is Evelyn going away from a problem or toward a goal? Okay, so you've been listening so hard that Evelyn can hear you, and she's told you that she's worried that whether she can afford to pay for a burial. Sounds like she's got a goal of a burial, but she's worried that she can't afford it, right? So there's a price problem that she's going away from. So we need to do some further clarification, right? So we're going to say to Evelyn something like this. Evelyn, that's a common feeling, and I don't know for sure if I can help. But maybe I can talk to you about what some other people have done in your situation and, what worked for them. But just so I'm clear, when you say can't afford, what do you mean exactly? So this caller appears to be price sensitive. And so all we're doing is taking control back. We're going to stay neutral, let the prospect continue to explain themselves, continue to move in the direction that they're going, the direction of least resistance. And by doing so, we're going to uncover their needs, which is bringing us closer and closer to us taking their loved one into care. So in this scenario, the caller doesn't bring up price. She says, we hope to create a memorable service. Remember, funeral directors, I'm not asking you to pick up the phone ready to give pricing information and expecting clients to ask for it. I expect you to answer the phone with the intention of listening so hard that they can hear you listening to them. So when you get a caller who wants to talk to you about celebrating a life, you don't miss the opportunity. You don't push them into your packages. You don't start telling them. So get them to tell you the things that they want and need, and then get them to tell you why you are the right choice for that job. Again, the path of least resistance. They're going toward a goal. They want to create a memorable service. So you're going to say something that gets them to think about it and start taking mental ownership of this goal that they have. We're going to ask it, not tell it. So we're going to basically rephrase everything that we normally say and talk about. We're going to pose it as a question. I want them to say it. Remember, if they say it, it must be true. But if you say it, they can doubt you. So we got to get real good at listening, right? Slow it down so they can hear you listening. Be able to repeat verbatim everything that they say, and then be able to tell your manager or your coworker or yourself, was this person going toward a goal or away from a problem? Those are the things I need you to start listening for. And as long as you're focusing on the listening cues that I gave you, your tonality is going to come across crystal clear and highly effective.